my boys first, returning back to Allianz Stadium. Number 1, James Tedesco. Tupu, Jackson Paulo on the wins. In the centres, you got Suwali and my man, Daddy Manu. He's back in the squad. He's back here to tear up against his New Zealand brothers. The 6 and 7, Luke Keary and Sam Walker. The 8, Lindsay Collins. And 9, Brandon Smith. 10 and 11, you have Fletcher Baker, Egan Butcher. Nat Butcher gets to line up with his brother again. Victor Radley, he was poked in the eye. He was concussed. He somehow made it back into this lineup. Jake Turpin in 14, Drew Hutchinson in 15, Fahu White in 16, Terrell May in 17, and obviously Corey Allen does line up in 18th man. For me, obviously big mentions. Matt Lodge, he's out. It looks like he's been hit by a golf ball, which he did put on his Instagram story. Hargraves still isn't in this lineup. Egan Butcher, I'll get you to give me the exact amount when we do throw it to you, but he was given the early guilty plea. He took the fine there. But to me, this looks like a squad that just having Joey Manu back in there gives me a lot more confidence that, A, we're going to defend better in those centre positions. B, we're going to have a lot more in attack. People aren't going to be able to target Suali'i. They're not going to be able to target James Tedesco because they're shifting their heads trying to see where Manu has when he roams around. Obviously, that also helps Sam Walker. He loves that cut-out pass to the right. So that is the Roosters squad. I'll throw it to you. Let me know how much that fine was for Egan and then talk to me about this squad.
Sorry. Egan Butcher got a dangerous contact charge. Now, it's not graded in any retrospect, but he got an $1,800 fine, which he took for an early guilty plea. Stupid not to. Pretty solid pack, or should I say pretty solid squad across the whole park, given that you lost to the Dolphins last week with, as you call him, Daddy Joey Manu back into the center role. Look, this is a strong squad. Again, every team really looks strong on paper. It's just whether or not you have the capacity to bring that paper to real life and see if you're strong on the park. And you probably put Roosters in one of this category of they're always going to turn up, and it's a shock when they don't turn up, which you sort of blow off. It was just a one-off. So all jokes aside, I know I gave it to you, and so did my son after Sunday's loss for you guys. I reckon you bounce back here. Trent would have had him. He would have just used and abused them on the training park during the week, and he would make sure that they are up and ready for this clash on Saturday.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. And you abused me, your son abused me, both your sisters abused me about the results. So I copped it from all sides of the family. So I copped it left, right, and center. But obviously, like I said, I'm a lot more confident with Joe Manu. I think you chuck him. We are back at home. We saw what the Roosters did against South Sydney when they returned back to Allianz. I think it's going to have that same momentum, that same energy coming into this game. Sort of what like the Dolphins had. They're going to have that energy of, it's our first game back at home this year. We were shit last week. Let's give it to the fans now and let them say, hey, we're here. We're a premiership threat. Let's keep going. But I'll throw it to you, and you're gonna love this one because it's the Warriors, and there's always some cracky names there. So I'm going to throw it across to you, and you're going to take away this Warriors side. You're on mute.
Terrible start from me. We got Chaz Nickel-Kutztag in the fullback role. We got Edwin Kasoe and Marcelo Matoya in the wing position. You've got Brian Wilmay and Adam Pompey in the center role, with Tamari Martin and Sean Johnson make the halves pairing. We've got Aiden Nafum Blake and Mitchell Barnett to make the forward role, with Wade Egan to make the hooker role. Jackson Ford and Matara Nakore in the second row position, and Tohu Harris in the lock position. Dylan Walker, Bunty for Josh Curran and Tom Ali to make up the bench, with Vimiano. I'm just going to call him VV because your last name's harder to pronounce than your first name. I think I got your first name bang on. So I'm going to call you VV, or VB for short, to make the 18th jersey. My predictions and my thoughts on this team is, yes, they're playing the Roosters away. They lose that Warrior home field advantage with the faithful getting up and allowed for them from round one. Look, again, stick to the game plan. You executed well last week. You may have got lucky with the Kalen Ponga being HIA incident, but fair and foremost, Roosters are another caliber, and I'm going to see this in a 13-plus Roosters.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting now. Obviously, we saw last week where the New Zealand side did perform and did go well. It was through the middle. And if you look at where the Roosters lacked against the Dolphins, it was through the middle of the park with their forwards bullying us. Now, I think the only difference to this side compared to the Dolphins, and it's strange because a lot of people sat here last week and they said, Dolphins are challenging for the spoon. There's no way they're going to have there. And I think we both agreed they're not going to finish in that bottom four. They're going to shock a few people is Wade Egan doesn't scare me in that hooker role as much as Jeremy Marshall-King does. Jeremy Marshall-King, we saw his explosiveness. Wade Egan's more of a let's pass the ball and let's see what happens rather than let's exploit a dummy half and see if we can score. So obviously both teams have their positive, both teams have their negatives. I think if you look at 1 through 7, you're taking the Rooster side, you're taking that back line. If you look forward in those forward positions and those front row, back rows, you're probably saying you're taking it through Warriors players over to Butcher, Egan Butcher, and obviously Baker in that squad. But I'm going to go a bit more reserved. I'm going to go 1 to 12. I think it's going to be a real grind. Now, obviously, Victor Radley, he is named. He does need to pass the final protocols on Friday's training session. If he does, great, he's in. If not, you could see Brandon Smith move into that role and either Jake Turpin or Drew Hutchinson come off the bench. But 1 to 12 for me with the Roosters getting off the board, and obviously 13 plus with you. I think we're both in agreement that they are going to get off the board this week at home. But